Welcome back to another annotation day. We are covering chapter 12 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I want to make note that again, we are doing this to understand that you can't separate art from the artist. And despite J.K. Rowling being bigoted in many ways, there are some things that we can learn from her to do better with our own writing, and also things that we can learn from her to not do, so that, again, we don't have bigotry into our writing. Anyway, that being said, I will say chapter 12 doesn't exactly give I don't even know what doesn't exactly give any bigotry, I will say. So that is a warning. Not all chapters will have it. This chapter specifically was about the Mirror of Erised. So this is when this was just after Christmas. Harry is gifted the invisibility cloak, and while he's looking for a book on Nicholas Flamel and escaping the library because he made loud noise, he finds the mirror. Okay, with that being said, let's start with, there was a lot of foreshadowing. I will say JK is very, very good at using foreshadowing in many, many ways. So we don't truly learn about the tales of Beetle and Bard until much later in the series, but there are definitely some elements that we get, right? And there's some other hints to other things for foreshadowing, like Filch, how he suddenly appears everywhere, right? We'll learn more about that in the, I believe is it the Chamber of Secrets or the Prisoner of Azkaban, when he gets the map. I think it's the Prisoner of Azkaban. So, but again, foreshadowing, because we know that at one point, Filch knew of some of these tunnels, right? So, the Tales of Beetle and Bard, which ended up being a book, was based off three brothers, which had the Elder Wand, the Invisibility Cloak, and the Resurrection Stone. Okay, now, yes, in this book, all three already exist. So we have the Sorcerer's Stone, aka the Resurrection Stone, that Nicholas Flamel and Albus Dumbledore had created. We have the Invisibility Cloak that Harry was gifted. It was his father's. He does later find out that Dumbledore passed it on to him. And then the Elder Wand, which we don't really find out truly about later, but Albus Dumbledore does use it. That is his wand. Okay. So again, foreshadowing into the future. We have found family in many ways. So we have with the professors, right? We have with Professor McGonagall, remember the gift from of the broom, as well as with Christmas, Headmaster, aka Professor Albus Dumbledore, gave him the cloak. Like, he knew that this child could get into so much trouble and still gifted it to him. I think it's really important as an adoptee to, because technically, not technically, but Harry is seen as the orphan, right? But it was a kinship because he ended up with his mother's side. And no, they don't treat him well. But he didn't really get to know the truth. So as he's being educated in magic, he's also discovering more about his actual biological family. And so to possess something that his father had is incredibly meaningful. And I say this as a fellow adoptee, okay? Now, I am not a kinship. I was a private infant adoptee. I kind of talk about it in different scenarios, but to have something that your biological parents have, right, passed down to you or made for you, for me, something that is really, really important to me, again, has to do with Christmas, is there are ornaments that my biological mother made and sent with me when I was adopted. And I will be telling, I am currently writing my memoir. That's a whole big thing. Anyway, off topic, but I will say that I think it was really well done in terms of how a kinship adoptee specifically can be not only treated, but is seen, right? And having to discover the truth. Now, the thing is that Harry already knew that he knew kind of about his biological parents, like he knew that they died. For a lot of kinship adoptees, they don't know anything. They're late discovery adoptees, not until maybe their parents die. They hide a lot of things, kind of like private infant adoptees. So no, it's not always better. When done right, it can be, but there's a lot of issues. There's also found family in the Weasleys. So first of all, the Weasleys were good friends with his parents, so that was good. But the way that Molly took in Harry and treated him as if her own child, and that's not a bad thing. She still honors his parents, but simple things like Christmas gifts, right? Harry's fully expecting to wake up and not have anything, right? That's his usual. But for him to have something as simple as a homemade sweater meant the world to him. Meanwhile, we have meanwhile, we have Ron, right, who's annoyed at his mom, like, oh my God, my mom made me another sweater, right? And so we can see this dual POV of how family can look to other people. And I think it's an important aspect, like, there's some that wish that they, like Harry wished he had his biological family. And that's going to be a running theme within this chapter. And then Ron just gets annoyed. He feels overshadowed. He doesn't feel like he's really seen within his family. So both perspectives are very valid. Just coming at this from different lived experiences, right? Where was I? Okay, I'm literally home alone, and it sounds like the TV is on or Alexa went off. That was very strange. Literally nothing was on. It literally sounded like there was voices coming from the other side of the house where the bedrooms were, but literally nothing is on. That's so weird. Okay, yes, my house is haunted. It's been haunted. That's not new. But I don't usually get moments like that. Anyway, sorry. Not sorry because this is real. Anyway, so when Harry finds the the mirror of Erised, right? He sees his family, his parents, his grandparents, and all these other people that look like him. So first of all, I want to say shout out to JK in this moment. Okay, I'm only giving credit where credit is due. Again, she is a bigot, and it is in the book, but we can learn how to do representation well. And in this moment, I'm going to give her credit for that. So with that, she really made it noted that Harry's looking at these people and he sees familiarity. He's literally looking at his genetic mirroring. I know it sounds weird because like he's looking in a mirror, right? But that's key. That is something that we adoptees need. And non-adoptees don't necessarily understand that because it's something that you guys take advantage of, right? But I thought that this was such a great scene in where we really see how genetic mirroring works in a literal mirror, right? And Harry is just struck, right? He's just staring at them because this is his family. This is what he'll look like in the future. This is who his genetic connection, right? And there's a part of him that he's like, there's no way this can be real. Like, are they ghosts? I want to touch them. Excuse me. So we have all that. Now, the next day after he originally finds it, he tells Ron. They go back, and so he's trying to get Ron to see his family, and Ron doesn't see his family. Ron sees himself in the prefect, and he's Quidditch captain, and he's won the House Cup. And first of all, this is again foreshadowing for the future because we know that this is going to happen in the well, okay, if you guys have actually read the series, this happens. I'm not really giving spoilers away. The books have been around for years, okay? So keep that in mind. But what Dumbledore said to Harry the third day, okay, so we're skipping a day, is that the mirror reflects our heart's greatest desires. And he specifically stated, Harry, you want your family. Harry's greatest desire is to be with his family again, right? Whereas Ron is overshadowed by his siblings and he wants to be seen. Dumbledore literally said this in the book. Well, you know, it was written that way. And I thought that was such a fantastic point of view because Ron is the youngest son, right? It's all boys except for Ginny. Ginny is the absolute youngest, and then there's Ron, right? And so all he gets is these hand-me-downs. You know, he gets it's a cycle. He gets hand-me-down textbooks, hand-me-down clothing, hand-me-down wand, hand-me-down pet. We got Scabbers and then the owl, right? Nothing that Ron really gets is unique to himself. And I thought that was, again, a really important perspective because, you know, yes, their family is struggling for money, right? We kind of talked about that in a different chapter where we have the Malfoys who are seen as the Death Eaters are the Nazis, etc. But there's also a level of classism because the Malfoys are really wealthy and the Weasleys are not, right? But even within that, you can see that it doesn't matter how much money you have friends and family around you. You have a support system. And no matter what, they're going to be there for each other. But that doesn't negate Ron's feelings as a child growing up in this large family, right? And I can only imagine having so many siblings and having to get hand-me-downs. Now listen, I got hand-me-downs myself. Yes, I'm adopted, but there were some times I got hand-me-downs. My son also gets hand-me-downs, you know, at times. I don't think that's necessarily a big issue, okay? You save where you can. I think what it is that you get swept under the rug so you don't get to build that great relationship with your child, right? I think that's where Ron is feeling. Anyway, that is all I have for chapter 12. I hope you guys enjoyed this annotation of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, chapter 12. Next week will be chapter 13. And we have plenty of other videos coming up. So check in. Love you guys, and I'll see you very soon.